Good morning again. Welcome back to our class of a survey on world religion, and this is class number 4. And we'll continue from where we left in the last class. We're talking about this human spirituality and the religion and the human being. Because the religion has to do with who we are, how we perceive, and how we live the reality, how we process the existence. And the religion is a part of our existence, its way of life. And to try to understand that religion as a way of life, we have to go into the core, the inside you, because the religion deals with something that is inside, that is invisible. And we've been talking about this human spirituality, which is good and evil, and it has to do with the conscience. So let's go into the further. The goodness, the quality of being morally good or virtuous. See, again, this is the atheist, modern atheist version of the definition. Instead of morally good, it is spiritually good. Moral good is this, right and wrong. Here. So being right or being wrong, that's not the goodness. It is called something called it has to do with the righteousness. See, so goodness is the area of spirituality rather than morality. And so this definition needs to be corrected. The quality of being spiritually good and not or, good and virtuous. Evil, the definition, the general definition, dictionary definition says profound immorality and wickedness, especially when regarded as a supernatural force. So the evil, even still in secular definition, it does have a certain dimension of spiritual. Again, the supernatural aspect in the definition. So evil is something that is spiritual. It's not about morality, but it has to do with that more with the wickedness. Wickedness is not just being wrong, but it is being bad. And not just being bad, but being bad with certain intention to harm others or even use others for your own benefit. So that's the definition, my definition of evil. Trying to harm others for your own gain, or trying to use others, or ignore, discriminate others for your own satisfaction. See, when that happens, we can say that person is evil. So it's not just a matter of racial injustice, it's a matter of being evil when you are being a racist. There's no justification for you being a racist, trying to discriminate other human beings for the reason of their skin color. That's absurd. And these things are still going on in America. I mean, this is 21st century America in year 2020, way beyond the day of Lincoln, when he had to fight against this evil, culture, evil mind of some white people who try to, sustain the system of slavery for their own benefit. I mean, their reason was the money to provide the cheap labor for their own wealth and reach. See, that's evil. So I just gave an example of evil, and yeah, many who are sitting in the authority on the top of the government, see, their intention are evil. Evil. They don't care for the people. They say they care for the people, but in their heart, there's that wickedness of trying to use the people for his or her own gain, own benefit. And they do ignore and discriminate their own people. See, is it evil? It is evil, right? And then right and wrong, it's said. That's ethical, moral issue. And the religion, of course, every good religion deals with right and wrong. There are certain ethical standards. It may differ from this religion to that religion, but any good religion does deal with the matter of being right and being wrong. And not only they just draw the line, but they say you have to be right person who's doing the right. You have to be the person who is being good. See, that's the main message of any good religion. So if the religion does not say that, you can you will do the wrong and you will be evil, then that's not a good religion. It's something else. And in the name of religion, they do some devious, wicked, evil things in the name of religion. And when that happens, that religion has failed, and you need to reform and correct. Because I mean, any religion, Christian, when they were engaged in the crusade, it was totally wrong, and it's against the Bible. It's against God's teaching, and there's no, ground for justification of crusade. And then when a Muslim wear himself or herself with the bomb and kill as many as possible, that is against the teaching of Islam. They try to justify that as a holy war. There is no holy war against other good race and good people. The holy war is always against that evil and evil spirit. And yeah, sometimes the people who are evil, you can go against them in the name of holy war. But innocent woman and child, that's wrong. That's not right. And then they do it in the name of religion, and it is wrong, and it is evil. So the religion which is trying to go against the evil can become evil itself. Yeah, it is very paradox, but it does happen because humans are evil. There's that evil inside us, and the religion is trying to take root out that evil and try to be good and try to be right. See, the final reason, the final searching to the humanity, trying to understand what the religion is and what the religion does. In heart of human being, these are the elements that kind of creates, sometimes invents a religion. First thing, curiosity. People have that tendency to know the certain things. It's called curiosity. People do everything possible to get to know the thing. And that's why the science is developing and still developing the curiosity. Then there's the ultimate unanswered questions. These ultimate questions. You try to find it, you struggle for the answer, but you cannot come up with the answer. Then you depend on religion for the answers. See, that's why some of the religion, most good religion have their own set of answers to this ultimate question. And there's fear of unknown. It's the human nature. It's not a bad thing. When something is unknown, then the natural response for human being is to have fear and to worry about it, the anxiety. So the unknown causes you to have fear and to be afraid and to worry. And religion tries to comfort you through giving the unknown to be revealed. So revelation is one of the key important function of religion. Then, some of the unknown future. Then fear of death. This death is something that you cannot avoid. Even with the money, even with a good medicine, I believe it's Emperor Qin of China. He tried everything possible to avoid that death. He certainly had a deep fear of death, and he could not avoid that death. And any good religion does have answer to this issue of death. You cannot avoid it, but you can overcome it. So most of the message in the religions that we know say you can overcome it in the form of so-called salvation. So another vulnerable factor, fear of powerful ones. When you face someone who is mighty and invincible, whether it's a force of nature or whether it's a person, whether it's a large animal, then you have developed that fear. And you have the need to resolve that fear. And the religion comes in there. And the easiest resolution against the fear of the mighty powerful one is to worship, to lift that beyond your existence, and lift that and worship it. And natural disasters that's still going on. All the fire that goes on today in the California, in the west of America. See, that's fearful. And you try to ask a question: why the coronavirus? And so whether it's a big uncontrollable fire or big storm, hurricane, or whether it's this pandemic, that we ask a question: why? And how can we avoid it? And the religion tries to give answer to those questions. Then despair. As you live on in your life, you do face this despair, because the reality is not so favorable to you or for you. Most of us does not have a favorable reality against us. So when we face those reality, sometimes you say, I cannot do this anymore. And that's a moment of despair. When you face that disaster, the fire destroying your house in a minute. When pandemic kills your loved ones, you're not being able to do anything, or even you are not able to visit, to see, and say goodbye to them when they are dying. And there's that feeling of despair. And when that happens, we ask, why? And how am I going to be able to overcome this? And there comes the religion and says, here is the comfort, here is the eternal peace, here is mighty power who can help you to overcome. So that's the function, the religion. It has to do with a human who is weak. Excuse me. And there's an issue of hatred. Not hatred. Hatred is the feeling of hate against someone. And then there's an issue of insecurity. Many, probably 90% of world population feel insecure. They don't feel safe. And then we have sorrow from death of loved ones, or sorrow of departure. And sorrow can come from many different causes. And loneliness and anxiety. Anxiety becomes a very major issue for the modern population in more developed countries. See, it's funny, when you have more, when you have establishment, when you are rich, then there's more problem of anxiety. See, you think, when you have all the money in the world, then you will have you will feel secure, and then your needs are met, then you wouldn't feel any anxiety or you don't have any worries. But matter of fact is, richer, there are more anxieties. You take a drug, sleeping pill, to deal with those anxiety. And the religion comes in and says, here is the answer. Here is the comfort. Here's the strength. And so that was study 2, the end of study 2. And we'll continue with the study 3. Okay, give me a moment. Okay. Please. Okay, here we go. Study 3, religion classified. In any academic efforts, in a science, when you're doing a science, whether it's a physics, chemistry, or social science, especially, or theology, study of Christianity, any good academic effort, classification is a very important part of approach. I told you that defining the term and the concepts is one of the key elements of academic efforts. Now, classification is another very key to a good academic effort. In other words, if you are a student, that means you are being a scholar. Scholar is someone who is who's devoted to the academic effort. So when you do the study, when you study a certain subject, classification, how you classify your topic of interest is very important. So we'll try to do this classification. We are dealing with the word religion. How many religions do you think there is? We don't have the official number because it is impossible to count all the religions, different religions in the world. But we say there are major religions and then some other minor religions. Or mainstream religion. That's rough classification about the diverse religion. We are trying to deal with this distinctive characteristics of religions. Actually, I missed the S there, of religions. So there are thousands and thousands religions. More than 10,000. I would say as many as the tribes in in earth, there are then many number of religions, and so there are very diverse range of religions. So how do you classify these? To classify certain things, you are seeing into certain categories. To create the categories, there has to be certain parameters or barometers. Two of these. So parameters, it's those so function of parameter is to draw boundaries. So each subject or the thing would not overlap with another one. So that's parameters. For example, geographical boundaries between the nations, or so-called these national borders are example of parameters. So China is separated by boundaries with North Korea. So we know where the China starts and where the North Korea, the territory ends. So that's kind of parameters that we talk about. So that means this religion and this religion is separated by certain parameters. Barometers are the quantifier. It tells you about the amounts. So what quality is something as qualifies something as a religion, and how to classify religion. So the first one, it deals with the religion to something else. That will be quite similar to the religion, but not exactly as the religion as we define it. So how do we do that? Give a certain parameters, and the parameters are several categories that you give, and how to classify a religion. Okay, so these are some of the distinctive belief system. Pseudo religion. Pseudo means something that is similar, but not exactly that is. So pseudo is the word that you use for something that is very close to, but not exactly what that is. So there's a pseudo religion. It is pretty much like a religion, but it is not. And there's a religion, and then we have something called spirituality. So we'll try to see the the definition and the distinction between all these three. So this class today, the study 3 is covering how we distinguish, how we differentiate all the religions that we have and the religions to something that is not religion. By doing that, we know what the true religion is and what is not really the religion, but it's a different belief system. And in a modern day, even if you are not a religious person, or if you are not a member of institutionalized or organized religion, that you still have a certain belief system, which is functions very close and similar to the religion, but not exactly the same as religion. So knowing that, here are some examples of pseudo-religion. It is not religion, but pretty similar, close to religion. Superstition. Superstition is many sports athletes. For example, the baseball player or soccer player, they have certain superstition. And they call it some other name, but it is kind of superstition. For example, they don't cut fingernails while they are in a certain league. So until that the league is finished, they're not going to cut the nails. Or they don't wash feet, period, until the Olympic game is over. Something like that. And then superstition, if you go to a rural area in Korea or in China, I'm sure it's the same. There are many superstitions they try to keep. And this is not a religion, but its function is pretty similar to the religion in sense. They engage or keep the teaching of the culture of superstition because they want to be safe. So it has to do with that need of safety, security, and also has to do with the fear of something, fear of bad luck, fear of unfortunate. If you do this certain things, and then you'll face a bad luck. For example, when a black cat crosses your path, then you're going to have something terrible happening that day. Or 13th of Friday. That's a superstition, widely accepted in Western culture, right? Because there's a 13th as a Friday when Jesus was crucified, and it has to do with the number 13. The Judah as a 13th member of the Jesus's group, right? So those kind of there is a certain interpretation to the superstition, but see, the reason they have these is to avoid the unfortune or misfortune. Then folk tale. I'm sure that many of you who are, have uh, some age, about around my age, who has grown up in Korea or in China, in Japan, in Asia. Matter of fact, you heard these folk tales from your grandma or grandfather. You grew up listening to these. These are not in the books. It's not written, but it's mouth to mouth. It's just tales. It's narratives, but it's pretty similar. So you listen to these, and these folk tales, even it's just a story for children sometimes, but many times it does have these religious elements in them. And those folk tales may develop into myth. Myth is a story that has certain teachings or certain themes, especially the myth about your nation, the beginning of your nation, beginning of my nation. We do have this myth, the story about the first person who had established that country. China, I know that there are many different tales about the beginning of each tribes or small nations in China in the ancient days. We have that story for the beginning, very beginning of Korea, known as Go-Joseon, meaning very old Joseon, and and also the nations. Each nations have the tale, the myth about their beginning, and as you investigate, study these myths, there are very religious elements in it. For example, in the beginning story of Korea, there is a God above, and that God's child, son, God's son comes down to earth, and then he meets with a woman who happens to be a bear, originally a bear, who went into a cave for 100 days. And there is a tiger also went into the cave and ate garlic and a special herb, a popular herb in Korea called soup. And then they were to eat those and stay within the cave for 100 days, and they will become a human being. So thus, tiger fails, and the bear eventually makes that 100 days, and then that bear becomes a woman, and she marries the son from heaven, and then bear a child, and he is known as Dangun, who is the first the king of the nation that we have in the Korean Peninsula. See, in these elements, there's a very religious elements. The deity who is in heaven, and then the son of that heaven who is like a medium or the messenger, and then worship of animals, tiger and the bear, who, they are very powerful and invincible animals to human beings. And then we know that the element of animism is there. And then transformation of this animal to human being. See, so these are all the religious elements that are in the myth. And we have a lot of sayings and proverbs in every culture, in the ancient cultures. And these sayings or these proverbs, they do include religion or elements in it. But it is not religion. Myth is not a religion. Folk tales, not religion. Superstition, very similar to the function of religion, but it is not defined as religion. And then these things, in the modern days, we still have philosophy, ideology, and ethics. These things function similar to the religion, but we don't say that is a religion. Ideology these days take a much place of religion in the form of political ideology or in the form of economic ideology. For example, capitalism, communism, these are the terms that apply to the economic ideals. And it becomes kind of religion for those who believe in capitalism, those who believe in communism, and then also political, democracy or socialism. These are two different set of political ideology which rules a whole country. It's not only ideology, it becomes a religion to them. So it replaces, ideology replaces a religion. Sometimes philosophy does that, but even though they try to replace the religion, it is not religion because there are some elements that are missing in this philosophy and ideology, which is essential to the religion. Ethics, the same. And in a modern day, with all these digital things that are going on, and this new age, we say we are in the fourth industrial revolution era. And we'll see something that's going to come up in the future that will take a place of religion in it. But entertainment, it becomes more like a religious phenomenon with a fandom. I'm sure that you heard of BTS doing the #1 chart for 2 weeks in Billboard single. And you have something called ARMY. ARMY is a name for the fandom for BTS. And if you see their concerts and the way they do the things, these fans, their ARMY, they are very religious. So we see in the form of religion. And the trends, even the way you dress and the accessories, they become something of worship. Not just something that you want to have, but certain trend and certain styles that becomes the object of worship. I mean the exact level of that you have that royalty and that commitment, that dedication that is required for the religion. They do the same thing for the style and trend and so on. And as a note, going back to I haven't written in, but certain politics take a place of religion. I'll give you a good example. I don't think Kim Jong-un's gonna like this, but the North Korea, from Kim Il-sung to Kim Jong-il to Kim Jong-un today, these three, grandfather, father, and the son, they rule for 70 plus years. Now, if you know North Korea, it's in the level of religion. They worship the great, the leader. And the level of son, the shining sun. And then there are songs that the praises for Kim Il-sung, the greatest leader. So, North Korea is a big religious group, and they worship the system. They worship that ideology called the 주체, meaning their own independent ideology, and then they worship the leaders. So those are not religion, but those are like a pseudo religion. Very similar to religion, but it's not religion. So let's not confuse these to the religion. Okay. So what makes a religion a religion? Here are some religious aspects. So we should have all these elements, not just one or two of these, but all of these elements, or the most of these religions, these elements, to define it as a religion. There has to be a spiritual elements. Even though I gave an example of North Korea, it's not a religion because they lack that spiritual elements. They do not talk about salvation. They do not talk about the resolution of sin or sins. They do not talk about good and evil. They may talk about the right and wrong, or the certain ethical issues within the system, but they lack that spiritual element. And there's some mystical elements in every religion. For example, in Christianity, there's resurrection. There may be many cases of resuscitation. Resuscitation meaning coming back to life from medically defined death. Some even revived after a week or 10 days. I don't remember exactly, but more than 3 days for sure. So medically dead for 3 or more days and they come back. Medically dead for 8 hours but come back. So these are resuscitation, is revival. It's not the resurrection. Resurrection only happened once in human history, according to the Bible. There are some myths of resurrection, but the thing is, Jesus did not die again, but he was lifted alive to heaven. So that's what makes a different from resurrection to resuscitation. Those who has resuscitated, revived, they eventually die physically, and their tombs are there. their graves are there. But for Jesus, his death is, his resurrection is something that is mystical. So every religion, they do have this mystical element. Again, this mystical and supernatural is pretty much similar. So supernatural. Paranormal is a little different than supernatural or mystical. Paranormal is something that you do not happen usually, but like a once every while. And paranormal means it's beyond our science, the physical science, in matter of fact. So physical or natural science deal with the nature, the visible world, and something that is tangible, touchable, something that can be weighted or measured. But paranormal is something beyond that. Whether it's a psychological or a spiritual, it is beyond our normal realm. In that sense, it is. So most paranormal things that happen are supernatural and mystical. It is not usually unexplainable. But when the paranormal is used in the context of the academics, it means they can prove or redo the things that are supernatural and mystical. Transcendental. Every religion has that area or dimension of transcendental, meaning beyond our human capacity or beyond our human experience and beyond our physical understanding. So, and it is done by someone who is above or beyond our ability. So that's transcendental. Most of all, transcendental is beyond our experience and is not visible. So when something is transcendental, it's beyond this earthly realm. Usually it has to do with the heaven or hell. And so metaphysical is also close to the supernatural and paranormal. Physical, meta, it means beyond the physical. Unempirical, meaning beyond our experience. Okay? So, and then unsubstantial, meaning you cannot prove it physically with the science or physical science or natural science. You cannot prove it. So unsubstantiated meaning you cannot prove certain things that are happening around our life. So the reality that we are talking about here does include something that is beyond our experience or beyond the physical proof. So the reality is not just limited to the physical world, but it includes non-physical world that is beyond, that we see. The spirits, the angels are also the reality, because there are many who has seen the angels. There are many who has witnesses the spirits or ghosts, and those are real. They are not made up stories. Physical, natural science say, no, that's not possible. We don't believe in that. Okay, they can say they don't believe in it. That does not mean it does not exist. The spirits does exist. The world beyond the physical reality there's another reality which is true and real. So the religion deals with those things that the science cannot and science would not. Religion is thus subjective and it's exclusive. And exclusive means it has certain boundary and it is within that boundary. Deity, again, is God or gods. Deity is not, it's different from the spirits, okay? Spirits are less than deity. Deity is the one who is controlling the spirit or controlling the universe or controlling the reality. And then there is an element of worship. But many pseudo-religions does have that element of worship, but pseudo-religions, most of them, I would say most of them does not have the existence of deity, the God or gods. They may have something that replaces the deity, but deity has to be personal. See, again, the deity that we are talking about here, God or gods, they are personal beings. They are not forces or they are not the objects or things. If you can worship the things or ideas or the objects, but they are not personal beings. So deity here is a personal being. So any good religion does have this personal being, whether it's a human being lifted up to the state of deity, just like a Buddha. Buddha is not a god, or he never claimed himself to be a god. But people kind of worshipped Buddha into the sutra level that he becomes sits at the status of that deity, way high, honorable, and the reverence are there. So whether and even some of the sects, the cults, they do worship living human beings, putting them into the level of deity, and they themselves even claim that I'm the coming Jesus, I'm the Messiah. Many wouldn't say directly, but indirectly they refer themselves as the Messiah, coming Messiah. For example, the Unification Church, the Reverend Moon Sunmyoung Moon, he is worshipped as the coming Messiah in that cult. So living human beings can be lifted to the level of deity. But the thing is, again, when we say deity, it means that is a person. It has a personal element, even though it's not a human being. It should have that personal element in that. Then there are certain rituals. Rituals are common even to the pseudo-religion. There are symbols and idioms that is used by a certain group of people, and there is a certain meaning attached to those symbols they use. Narrative. Always a good religion have the stories. Some of the stories are the actual history. It's based on the fact. Some of the narratives are exaggerated, kind of put certain elements, added like mysterious elements. into that story. Whatever the case is, they do have a narrative to support the belief, support the deity that we talked about, support the doctrine they believe in. So these narratives functions as like the backbones of a religion. So any good organized religion has very strong narratives that goes with it. And then many organized religion have certain sanctuaries, whether it's a church building, whether it's a temple, they do have a place of worship. Judaism has a so-called synagogue when they become a diaspora. But they had a temple in Jerusalem, the temple, one temple where God is as their sanctuary. Islam, they have their mosque as a place of worship, sanctuary. Buddhists have their temples as a place of worship. So, most religions do have this sanctuary, but pseudo-religions does. Many of them has a place of gathering and place of worship. Then you have something called sacred place or items. For example, Catholic Church has the Jesus's cloth when he died. I mean, the clothes for his death. Supposedly, they try to prove it scientifically, but there's no final conclusion. But in Vatican, if we go there, they have that thing. Supposedly, the cloth that Jesus wore when he was in the tomb, in the grave. So that's very holy and sacred item. You cannot touch, except only those who are permitted. So, and you have many sacred places in all different religions. There's an area only limited person, usually the priest. Only the priest can come and in and out. And in the Old Testament, you have this sacred place called the temple of God, or the tabernacle of God, which is a very sacred place. In there, even more sacred is the Holy of Holies, where a priest can enter only once a year with a certain preparation. If we go in there without those preparation or any other days, then you will be killed instantly. And then there's something called Ark. It's a golden box that Israelites carried wherever they go in the time of Exodus. It's a golden box, and it's very sacred item. So these things are there in every religion. Now, religion versus spirituality. Spirituality, let me Yeah, this will show very simply what the place of spirituality and religion is different. When it is a religion, it's just a part of your reality, your context, and it is part of your culture. So religion is only part of your culture. It does have certain uh, effect, influence over your economy and politics, but usually religion as remains as religion. But when your faith or your belief, religion becomes a spirituality, it does influence and dominate, rule over all the politics, society, social issues, economy, marriage, family, work, and so on. So spirituality, it dominates your life, your culture, your context, your reality. And spirituality is how you interpret your life. So it's, in other words, it's holistic. On the other hand, when religion is a religion, when I call a religion, this is what it is. It's only a part of your social life. It's only part of your cultural life. It does not dominate all other areas. So many Christians today, for example, I'm sure that is the same for the Islam. There are those who take Christianity, their faith, as just a religion. They go to church, they do give offerings, they listen to the sermon, they do pray, they even read the Bible and do all the things. But it is only religion for them. It does not affect other parts of their life. Or effect, influence is minimal. When there is conflict between their religion and their economy, they would not take the religion seriously or listen to the religious teaching, but they do make their own rule and their own principle about the economy that is different from the teachings of religion. Then it is they are only believing in a religion. But other end, spirituality, what you believe is what you exercise. What you believe is how you make that decision. What you believe dominates and rules your life. In a way, those teachings are going to be relevant. Even if you fail to follow the instructions of the teachings of your faith, still you know that you have failed, and you still because you have failed, next time you try to not fail, and you keep trying. If that happens, that became your spirituality. So Christian faith, or whether you're a Muslim believing in Islamic faith, there are two different kind of a person according to this. Your Islamic faith is only a religion, or it becomes your spirituality. So here's a rough, shape of comparison between the religion versus spirituality. So I don't think we will have enough time to go into this. So we'll continue on this next week. But to summarize what we have just done, There's a pseudo-religion, which is pretty similar to the religion, but it is not religion. Then there's a religion, and that religion can be just a religion like this, or it can become a spirituality, real true belief of faith. So many of the religion or the people in the religion, they are not believing. They are into that institution, that system. They are just a member. And it is sad because I would say probably only 10 to maybe the most would be 30% or 1/3 of the church members that I see in my church or our church are having Christian faith as their spirituality. The rest of them, 2/3, 60 to 90% of the church members, they take that faith or belief as the only level of religion. That's why the society is not changing, it's not transforming, because they only take a religion as a religion, not as their faith. So we'll continue this discussion next week, and thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in next week. Bye.